All right. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you, Judy, for coming on to the show. I know you're very busy. It was a busy day today, as we talked about earlier. So I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
So I wanted to ask you how you got into bodybuilding and working out.
Okay, so when I had my first child in 2015, I gained a bunch of weight, and I've never been so big in my entire life. Granted, I was always active, I was always in shape. So at the time, just to kind of get back into the groove of things, I hired a trainer in the small gym in Hallandale, Florida. And just working out at the gym, I saw a girl who was in shape, like ripped, like she was ripped. And I was asking my trainer, like, who's that girl and how did she get like that? She looks good. And then he told me that she does bodybuilding. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, oh, and she just turned pro. So I asked him, like, what does that mean? And then he's like, well, she got her pro card. I don't even think he knew what that mean, but that's what he told me.
Mhm.
So he communicated to her that, I liked her look and it's something I seemed like I was interested in. So he gave her my number and she called me pretty much to give me an overview of the category she competed in, which was figure. And she told me that, of course, she ran on the cost, explained that it's a very expensive sport, yet it's rewarding. I mean, based on where you're going to take it. And she told me that she thought I would be good in figure. And she showed me pictures of her, on stage day and just the other athletes on stage day. It wasn't an appealing look to me. I'm going to be honest, I just didn't like that much muscle on me, just
Mhm.
and even being a person, a newbie, just getting basic information at the time.
Mhm.
So I was like, you know what, let me see, what, other information I can actually get on my own. So I remember it was my birthday around 2017. Yeah, it was 2017. We actually went to Vegas. I was like, just to back up a little bit, she gave me a couple of coaches that she thought that would be good for me. And one was her coach, which was an online coach based out of Houston. And the other one was a local coach here in Pembroke Pines, Florida.
Mhm.
Her name is Lolita. And I was like, okay, well, I think because I'm new, it will fit me better to have a local coach in person.
Mhm.
I don't know anything about the sport. So when I came back from Vegas, it was my birthday. I went to Vegas with my husband, came back, and it was around May, June of 2017. My son was turning 2 at the time.
Mhm.
So I contacted Lolita, made an appointment for a consultation. So when I went in there, she saw me. She seemed very impressed by my structure. And
Mhm.
she told me that she think I would do good in bikini because I don't have the muscle for figure.
Mhm.
I was actually very happy because I just was not trying to do
You
figure.
really wanted to stay away from figure. That's clear.
I wanted to stay from, yeah, and just based on what I've seen, I just wanted to just stay far away from figure. And so we actually, I signed up with her team. Her team is Team Lolita. She actually owns a gym in Pembroke Pines called BBL Fitness. So,
Mhm.
so that's where I started. And we started prep like the following week. And I'm prepping, I'm excited. She's excited. She was actually my trainer at the time. And I went to it just I just started feeling weird. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe, it's a diet. I've never dieted like that before.
Mhm.
So my body felt like it was going through changes. I'm like, okay, it's the prep. I'll get used to it.
Mhm.
Doing cardio, I was working out, and I was getting results, but it wasn't the results that I thought I should be getting
Mhm.
based on what I was eating. And
What do
then,
you mean by that? Like what were you expecting as opposed to what you were getting?
well, if you're just a regular person, you're just eating just to eat based on what you
Mhm.
think is healthy.
Mhm.
But then, I've never counted calories. I just ate, and I've never had to really worry about putting on a lot of weight. I just
Right.
ate. I ate health on the healthier side. However, in competition, of course, your meals are much smaller. If you're competing in the bikini category, you're eating about what at that time was getting like 3 ounces of chicken, maybe 2 ounces of avocado, cup of rice, and
Mhm.
it's not rice with every every
Right.
meal. The
It's
carbs
almost
are very low.
nothing.
It's not much. It's not
Yeah.
much. So I'm just thinking that my body's just going through the motion, and it's just gonna get used to
Mhm.
this meal, this type of lifestyle, I guess, at some point. So I was like, no, it continued. I was like, no, no way, something's off. So I went to the doctor, and come to find out, I was like 9 weeks pregnant.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Are you serious? This
Hmm.
Wow. So it was bad enough where you were like, no, this isn't
Yeah.
right. Something
Hmm.
is off.
Something is off. Like I kind of knew it. And at that time, I was about maybe 4 weeks or so,
Mhm.
maybe 4 or 5 weeks or so into the prep. So that means I was already pregnant when I went to go sign up to do competition, right?
That's wild. And I'm thinking now, it's like, what if you didn't realize like how long would have taken, what kind of consequences would have, happened if you continued eating at such a deficit, while
Exactly.
pregnant.
Thank God I just did not find out, and I knew the
Mhm.
signs. It just my body's off. I definitely, I pay attention. That's something that I think is very important even till today.
Mhm.
So it's just I was disappointed. It just seemed very selfish of me to say that. I wasn't expecting to be pregnant at the time, but it
Mhm.
happened. I was disappointed because I'm thinking I wanted to do this. I was
Mhm.
excited. Lolita was excited. I was even scared to tell her.
Mhm.
But I had to tell her. She had to know.
Mhm.
But she's like, I'm happy for you, but of course she's a little disappointed.
Right,
But
right.
we'll get back on track once you have the baby. So she kept on because I paid for a meal plan, a 12-week prep. So she kept on
Mhm.
giving me a meal plan. But of course, she increased my calories to I'm eating for two now. So I tried to eat as healthy as possible, during the prep. Of course, I didn't eat 100% on that meal plan. I was like, I don't know. I don't really want this today. Maybe some days I want it. I'm not feeling chicken today. Maybe I want a steak, you know.
So were you, so you were 9 weeks, right? You said. So
Mhm.
were you still attempting to, and forgive my ignorance because I don't know,
No,
like
that's fine.
where, when you start showing or how much you start showing at certain weeks, but were you still prepping during that time? Were you planning to, like, well, what was
No,
what was the process at that point?
no. I automatically took competition out of my mind, but I
I
kept
see.
on working out because I actually did work out when I was pregnant with my son.
Okay.
I don't think that's something that I would stop. Even if I got pregnant again, I wouldn't stop working out. I
Hmm.
work out as long as I can and based on how I feel that day. And because I was feeling okay, it was kind of past a safe
Hmm.
point, which is like the first trimester.
Hmm.
You get your energy back. I kept on working out as long as I could. I actually stopped going to Lolita's gym because it was a little bit too far for me. At the time, we lived a little bit further, and I just didn't want to wake up so early to go to her gym. So I just kind of just started going to a local gym here close to where I lived, but I didn't stop
Yeah.
working out. I
Yeah,
work.
there was I don't mean to interrupt, but there was a girl I remember years back, and I guess this goes against like some of the conventional wisdom that people used to have when a woman is pregnant, is to not really do a whole lot, to kind of like get kind of really sedentary. But now it's like that's not really what women are doing. I remember there was a girl in our gym who was pregnant, and it seemed to me like she was working out, I mean, almost right to the end of where, until she gave birth, because I mean, her stomach was, she was ready at any moment, and she was still like training and everything. And it's kind of like uh, you're looking at it and you're like, is that safe? But apparently, from what I've been hearing, it's actually like really good for you, like to work out while you're pregnant. So,
Yeah, and your doctor will encourage you to
mhm.
do workouts. Of course, don't go lift and go squat like 480 pounds. No, but of course, you have to keep up with your cardiovascular health
Right.
during your pregnancy, lightweight, even like 25 is good. Whatever your body can handle, just listen to your body. And
Mhm.
that's to me advice I would give anyone that's going through that situation right now.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean
Don't
that's
stop.
you would think that's common, right? I mean, people get pregnant all the time. So like if you're thinking, all right, look how many competitors that are females that we have in the industry. I
Mhm.
mean, it had to happen pretty often where you're in prep and all of a sudden, you realize that you're pregnant. It's kind of like, what do you do? So
Yeah.
you start going through this, I guess backtracking a little bit, you keep working out, and what after that?
Yeah, so I had my daughter the following year, and this was in February of 2018.
Hmm.
She actually came early, and that's one of the things when you were moving during your pregnancy. It's I don't know if the baby coming early is if as long as the baby's full term,
Right,
it's
right.
fine,
Yeah.
which is 37 and a half weeks and up. So my daughter came about 3 weeks early, and of course it was very special to me because I mean, I was excited to have a girl. I already have a
Hmm.
boy, so I have a little mini me, you know. But I felt like
That's
the
funny.
struggles were, real at that time. I had a
Hmm.
toddler and a newborn. I did not even remember about prepping or bodybuilding or anything like that.
Hmm.
It was far from my mind at the time.
Were you
But
still working out?
after no, I stopped working out probably maybe like 32 weeks
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
at that time, like my feet were, I was getting ankles.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So at that time I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I just take walks.
Hmm.
Me and my husband, we just walk around the neighborhood just to kind of like get some blood flowing. But I had
Right.
really bad ankles. So I was like, I can't do this no more. And so what happened, my daughter came early, 3 weeks
Hmm.
early. But Lolita, she actually is my coach now as well. She knew when I was supposed to have my daughter. So she called me actually 3 weeks later after I had my daughter, because that's when I was
Wow.
supposed to have her in the first place. And she said, I'm checking up on you. I remember you're supposed to have the baby, around here. I was like, well, I had the baby already. She came early. And we got talking, and like she really didn't
Hmm.
mention too much about any type of prep or anything like that. She just talked about me, how I'm feeling, and just it was the conversation was more how are you. She didn't mention
Hmm.
anything about prep, but of course
Hmm.
it came back to me at that point in that conversation. I was like, I want to come back to the gym, and she was
Yeah.
like, you know what, we'll talk about that another time. Go to your doctor after your 6 week checkup. Go to your doctor and
Hmm.
see what your doctor says. Make sure you get clearance from your doctor, and then we'll have a conversation about it. And then
Yeah.
time went by, and I did just that. And the thing about, and I'll backtrack why it's so important to work out during your pregnancy, because it matters after you have your baby.
Hmm.
Your energy's up, you recover so much faster. I actually had 100% natural birth.
Hmm.
100, I no drugs, no nothing like that. It
Hmm.
helps so much. So like I said, I mean, if any viewers, females and pregnant, and they're interested in continuing their workout, I'll definitely encourage that, because the afterbirth, or after you have your child, it makes the recovery so much faster, and you don't have to depend on any type of drugs during your delivery.
Right. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because
Yeah,
if you have a stronger body, you continue to improve your immune system, you continue to improve your
exactly.
strength, and then when you're at that moment of recovery, it's like you recover much faster. It would make sense because it would make sense for anything else. Like even like let's say you got ill, your recovery would be much better. So I mean, same thing for any
Absolutely.
time your body is taking stress. It's like you're better off if you're stronger, so it
Uh,
makes total sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So after I got clearance from my doctor to, resume physical activities, I went to Lolita. I was like,
Hmm.
hey, sign me up. And then we started just trying to get back into shape, not really competition, but just losing the weight and, getting on a meal plan that has a surplus of calories, because I was breastfeeding at the time as well. And I was still home. I didn't go back to work as yet. So based on the meal plan she gave me, which is super healthy, of course, with enough food, for both me and probably the little one if she can eat.
Yeah.
So I lost all the weight before I went back to work. When I went back to work, everyone was like, "Did you just have a baby?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, that's a big I don't know, problem is the right word, but I would call it a problem. A lot of times, like, women don't know like how to get back in shape after
Yeah,
having a
yeah,
child. It's like it's and to be honest, majority of the women that I find that is the case with are usually women that didn't really do a lot of working out prior to getting pregnant, and then
yeah.
when they got pregnant, their body changed, and then like now they don't know how to get themselves back to their old physique. So
It's
um
unfortunate,
it's
but
tough.
it's tough. It's very tough, because then you go through that postpartum,
Hmm.
phase, and it's real. It's real.
Right.
So you just have to keep yourself active, even if it's post baby, just keep
Yeah.
yourself active. I know that I did, and it worked, it worked for me.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring out, is to keep yourself active, because people always like ask me like what's important, what's the most important, working out or what, like you know they'll ask about your physique, or like how do you look like this, all that kind of stuff
Right.
that the normal people that work out get. And my point is always like, don't stop, because once you stop, it gets really hard to go get back into it. You start kind of like you just start kind of like devolving. It's like, just stay consistent, even if you don't do like, let's say one day you don't feel like working out hard, just do something, like make sure you stay on a good regimented schedule, because that's so important. And like, to your point, you kind of started working out, you kept working out, you worked out through your pregnancy. At a certain point you had to stop, but then you picked back up again. And
Yeah.
so you're much better off, doing it that way, for sure.
Yeah, it's so worth it. So after I went back to work, and maybe like a month later, I told Lolita, actually I do want to do a prep.
Hmm.
And she's like, "Yeah, you're in pretty good shape. All you need is maybe about 10 weeks." And I was like, "Okay, good." So we started prepping in about August of that year, 2018. And I was prepping for my first bikini competition.
Hmm.
And it was, I mean, I got a taste of the competition, what it takes to become a bikini competitor.
Hmm.
Uh, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. Even though you're in shape, you're not in stage shape. A lot of cardio, of course, that low,
Yeah.
that low calorie, meal, and I mean, you don't get a lot of food. Let's just call it
Yeah.
what it is. You don't get a lot of food.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes. But I did it. It was of course, I train about 4 days a week, and I did 2 sessions of cardio,
Hmm.
and to get stage lean. And even, what I actually got to that point, my feedback was that I was not, I needed to come down more on my legs. I've always had that
Really?
feedback. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's getting a little bit ahead of myself. But
Uh-huh.
I trained for the competition, and my first show was the oh my God, now I forgot. I even forgot. It was a
Okay.
show in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay.
It will come back to me at some
Yeah,
point.
it's okay. So you competed in West Palm Beach, your first show, and how did that
Mhm.
go?
I actually won my class.
Okay, and this is in bikini.
And this is in bikini, yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I was really excited, because I'm like, oh my God, my first competition, I won my class.
Mhm.
I didn't get the overall, but it's okay, because this is my first competition. That's just a win in of itself, just with my class. So
Yeah.
I was excited. And then I prepped actually 5 weeks later for another show. And this was the Holiday Classic, the Mel Chansey Holiday
Mhm.
Classic, which was also here in Fort Lauderdale, South Florida. And I wanted to point out, at my first competition, my daughter was shy of 9 months old. So that
Really?
to me, for me, it's something to be extremely proud of, because I don't let that, being a mom define who I am, because that's not all I am.
Hmm.
I don't want to be in this box of I'm just a mom. I'm just going to be doing mom things. Like I have a life
Hmm.
outside of that. I don't just like,
Right.
that's not my everyday. Yes, it is my everyday, but it's not my whole life. It's
Yeah.
a big part of my life, but something for myself. I always have to have something myself. It's more of a sanity kind of thing, and just keep me going.
Right.
So
Well,
my
I
daughter
mean,
is
you
nine
have
months
to.
old.
I'm sorry. You have to take care of yourself before you can, take care of other people. You know how on an airplane they always say like, when the mask drops down, put the mask on yourself first before you, put it on your child next to you. And it's like, why would you do that? Well, because if you're passed out, you can't help anybody. So it's the same thing. It's like take care of yourself, like be healthy, be
Exactly.
happy, and then because you're healthy and happy, you will take care of other people as well.
I 100% agree. I
Yeah.
mean, your mental health, your physical health is so important for you to deliver to other people. And I
Mhm.
don't think a majority of people understand that it is so
Yeah.
important, especially when it comes to children.
Mhm.
Children, I mean, my two, I mean, they're 4 and 6 right now, and they're hyper. If I just, they're so hyper. If I didn't just, take care of myself and, just have that kind of energy, I would never be able to keep up with them. So you got to take care of yourself before you take care of others, mentally and physically. It's so
Absolutely.
important. Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was going to ask you and I don't know, I hope I'm not jumping too far, but you did mention that your legs were always like a little bigger, and I know that now you're a pro and it's not in bikini. So how did you like, get to the wellness division?
Okay, so this was in 2018. So 2019, I actually took that year off. I just wanted to focus on work because for promotion at the time, and I
Hmm.
just didn't want anything to get in the way, because I knew now that I did a show, I knew the kind of commitment it took, and I
Hmm.
knew that it was going to take away from me getting, promoted at work, which it's the big picture right here. This is the
Right.
money maker right here. I'm not going to let bodybuilding get in anywhere of that. So
Right.
that was my mindset in 2019. So towards 2019, I started actually just getting healthy again, just getting my mind wrapped around bodybuilding. I actually ended up getting promoted. So I accomplished that goal and started prepping for a show. I wanted to do a 6 month prep. I wanted to slowly go into a prep and not
Hmm.
like a 12-week to me is a little aggressive.
Hmm.
I don't
Hmm.
do 12-week preps.
Yeah.
And I found out from early, that's not for me.
Hmm.
So I started like around towards the end of the year, around November-ish,
Hmm.
prepping, and still in bikini. They made an announcement maybe mid-year that year, 2019, that they were introducing the wellness category. And I saw what the NPC the pictures that they were advertising for wellness, it wasn't appealing to me. All I saw was these huge, gigantic legs
Hmm.
and these small upper bodies.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, I don't know if I want to do that. I mean,
Right.
they're beautiful, look like stallions, but I don't know if that would be right for me.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Because
So,
you're not imagining
yeah,
yourself with that kind of body. It's like
yeah.
that's not that wasn't appealing to
It
you. I
wasn't
get it.
appealing to
Yeah.
me. It was not, and I'm just being quite honest.
Yeah.
So I continued to prep for a bikini into 2020, and I was just working so hard, doing multiple sessions of cardio. Even in at my job, we have a gym downstairs. So during my lunch hour, I would actually do a session of cardio. I would
Hmm.
do plyometrics. I would just do a lot of cardiovascular, workout. I just noticed that my legs just wasn't moving. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like to the point where I got really, really frustrated. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna kind of take a couple of weeks off and just kind of like maybe just reassess this.
Hmm.
And maybe we'll come back and just think about it again. And that's when the pandemic hit. This was around March. Like everything started shutting down around March. So I was in like really good shape at that time. It's just like I wasn't in like bikini bottom shape, if that makes sense. Like my legs were still big, but I was in really, really good shape. So of course the gym shut down, everything shut down. So I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do now for workout? So I actually ended up renting weights from Lolita's gym, and it was about 2 months. I think her gym was shut down about 2 months. The
Mhm.
entire time I worked out in my garage, me and my husband rented weights from her, and that's how we worked out. We stayed in shape the entire pandemic.
Yeah.
We ate like, maybe like we're like maybe 70%. We weren't like 100% clean,
Right.
but we ate pretty well,
Yeah.
because there's no way. I'm just imagining me sitting down, just like twiddling my thumbs, just working. I'm gonna put on weight.
Oh,
And then
absolutely. Yeah.
social media was starting to be like a huge hit now. People complaining about the weight that they're putting on. I'm like, oh
Mhm.
heck no, I'm not falling into that trap.
Yeah.
Honestly, I did not gain 1 pound during the pandemic.
That's fantastic. That's
Did not.
fantastic. A lot of people have had huge problems with that. I told myself, I was like, I got to get some weights. I found whatever weights I could get,
Yeah.
and of course, I don't know if you remember, but I'm sure you do. Like weights got really expensive during
Oh
that
yeah.
time. It
Yeah.
was unreal. People were just trying to gouge everybody for their money for the weights, and it was wild. It was a wild time for anybody who wanted to work out. Like it was
Yeah.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah. But Lolita, she rented me some weights at a
Mhm.
pretty
Nice.
realistic price.
Yeah,
It was
nice,
pretty
nice.
sweet.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
So when her gym opened, I went back, started training. And then, I remember I previously said that I was going to reassess if I want to continue in bikini.
Mhm.
And I started training for bikini again. And it just wasn't happening. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
You couldn't bring your
And then
legs down?
I could not bring my legs down. I don't know what it is, if just my body was just at a plateau or what it was. So Lolita was like, hey, you ever consider doing wellness? I was like,
Mhm.
I don't know. She's like, yeah, man, look at the girls, it's a beautiful category. We had a whole
Right.
discussion about it. And then I started looking at the pictures of the Arnolds that happened last year. I mean, that same year.
Mhm.
That's when Francielle, that's when she won the her pro card, the Olympia, the not Olympia, I'm sorry, the
Arnold, yeah.
Arnolds.
Yeah,
And I'm like, okay, I can deal with this. I can deal with this. I
yeah,
mean,
I remember when because that was that same March was when I haven't been to the Arnold for a few years, so I wanted
yeah,
to go. So I was excited to go. I'm driving down the street. It's like the day before I'm supposed to leave. And then I get the announcement. I hear the announcement that it was pretty much, shut down. I mean, at least like
yeah,
for the expo. So, oh, I was kicking myself. I was like, really, like I was so excited to go. But yeah, I remember Franchella winning, and then Issa I think was
she came
second.
in second. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and so that was a big deal because Franchella is not like what you were concerned about with the gigantic bodybuilding legs. She's not that. I mean,
yes,
so
yes.
it was super helpful to see somebody like her win.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess those pictures that the NPC was, giving examples of what I guess what they're looking for, or what the expectation, would be for someone who wanted to transition to this new division. It just wasn't appealing to me at
Right.
all. But when I saw Francielle, I didn't even really pay attention at the honors when it happened. It's just way after when
Mm-hmm.
I came like to realization I can't bring my legs down. So I went back at the pictures, the photos, and I was looking at Issa's legs, or her entire physique actually, and Francielle. I mean, they have beautiful physiques, beautiful. And I wouldn't say it's nothing like the photos, but it convinced me like
Mm-hmm.
this is the category that I should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I started just pushing heavy weights. I mean, I almost died. Like I seriously, I've never pushed that much weight in my entire life. It was a process, going from lifting, maybe if you're doing leg press, you're doing like one plate on each side, 145 plate on each side, to doing like progressively two, then three, then four,
Right.
and so forth, and even on a hack squat, it was very, very tough for me. But I pushed through it and I did it. and I did my first wellness debut actually, and it was at the Atlantic Coast. It was Atlantic Coast. It was a Tim Gardner production, and I actually I won my class. It wasn't like a big wellness show, but still I won my class. It was and so I have a funny story. So when I went there, I actually saw a girl. She was with her coach at the time. It was, her name was, if you ever heard of Amandita.
I don't know if I have.
She actually came in third in Pittsburgh last year.
Okay, I'll have to like take a look. But
yeah, she's an Olympian.
Okay.
When my first wellness show, she stepped on the stage. I'm like, whoa. She has first of all, a beautiful physique. When I saw her legs, I'm like, oh my God, she's so perfect. I was like, I'm going down today. That was my thought. I'm like, I'm going down today. Oh, wow. I'm not winning this show today.
And you said, what was her name again? Amanda what?
Amandita.
Let me see here. Oh yeah. I've never spoken to her personally, but yeah, I know who she is.
Yeah. So I saw her physique. Then I'm like, oh my God, I'm not winning the show today. Look at her, like, because at that time, it's just with a lot of coaches in the US, they're trying to figure out what the judges are looking for. So they're trying to see what they're rewarding at the time. And same with Lolita. Okay, let's see what the judges are rewarding. Let's see what bodies show up. And it's almost like a trial at that moment for me. So when I saw Amanda and her coach, I was like, yo, like, we started talking, and it's like, okay, well, like they told me, oh, you have a great structure, continue and all that other good stuff. But really, me and Lolita, we really just wanted to see what they were rewarding. So we did 3 shows, and to see again if it was consistent with the last one. What they were really looking for.
Right.
And I actually won my class in all 3 shows. I never got an overall, in those 3 shows, but I won my class. And my feedback was I need to grow.
Right.
I need to grow. So
well, you're going from bikini to wellness. Yeah, that makes sense. It's tough. Yeah. It's even though your legs are probably like you're fit for wellness, it's gonna take you a little bit of time to get to that that level. So
so I didn't compete for probably like most of the year and this was last year. I took off probably 7 months just to kind of like go into a building phase. And we took, what was it? It was from January to, because I remember I did the Tampa Pro-Am, and that was in August, the first week of August. So it was about 7 months. I took in a building phase and building and cutting phase, as a matter of fact. And then the goal was to, showcase this new physique, that we worked so hard all year on. And, we went to the Tampa Pro, and I won the overall at Tampa Pro. So it was definitely something there that the judges liked. One judge actually came up to my coach and I and said, hey, are you going to North Americans? He's like, yeah. He's like, if you were a pro, you would have won that show yesterday, because the pros I went the day before.
That's huge praise. That's huge praise.
Just get us the motivation, give us the motivation and just like the fire, because it so happens we were going to go to North Americans in 4 weeks. Yeah.
So you go to North Americans, and what happens there?
So I go to North Americans, and I actually signed up for Open and Masters. And I won everything. I won the whole show.
They should have had another like division or another part of the wellness show. You could have signed up for that and won that too.
No, it was just like such a proud moment for everyone, for Lolita. Lolita's my coach, but I also have a trainer. I have 2 trainers actually. I have a trainer for like legs and everything else, and I have another trainer for my glutes, and they're actually married.
So they're like teaming up on training you.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a team effort. I
Yeah.
mean, everyone was just, it's like super invested, and everyone knew what we had to do. We knew what the goal was in January, and that's what we
Mhm.
set out to do, going to Tampa and then going into North Americans 4 weeks later. So it
Well,
was definitely a problem for everybody.
I will tell you this, your story, if anything, I mean, it definitely shows you that, true hard work pays off, but
Yeah,
it also shows you that a good coach cares about who you are, not just the sport that you
yeah,
participate in. And when
yeah,
you were saying that Lolita contacted you after you were had your child, she didn't even know, but and then she wouldn't necessarily talk to you about training or about that. She gave you, the space and the time and made sure that you were okay before pushing you in that direction. And
yeah,
so that's how it's you have you real something special there, because as you well know, probably there's a lot of coaches out there that are not that way. You got some bad ones there, and it's always like
yeah,
a disaster story whenever you listen to
yeah.
some of these competitors when they
I've heard
talk about it.
stories. I've heard
Yeah.
stories. So, I mean, I can't relate, but I've heard
Right. Yeah.
stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you can't. That's
Yeah.
good. That's a good thing. So you get your pro card.
Mhm.
Have you competed in a pro show just yet?
Yeah. So I got my pro card at North Americans, and that same week I actually went to I did my pro debut at the Arizona Pro in Phoenix, and I
Okay.
actually
Yeah.
placed third in
That's
my pro debut. So
that's
that was really
beautiful.
special too. Yeah, I was really, I had a really good season. It was a really, really good season for me.
Mhm.
First season, I should say, as a pro, new
Yeah.
pro.
New pro, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. There's probably a lot of room for improvement, but that's
Oh yeah.
that's a good thing. You want to have a lot of room for improvement. That means you're only going to start getting better.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in a situation where you're like, well, you're tapped out. That's the best you're going to be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, it's bodybuilding. That means
right.
it's a progressive sport.
Sure,
You know?
sure, sure.
Yeah.
So what are your what are your plans now?
Well, I'm still in prep. Actually started my season at the Pittsburgh Pro. I
Hmm.
didn't do as well as I would have liked at the Pittsburgh Pro. I actually placed ninth.
Hmm.
And my feedback was, you have good size. You just have to come in more leaner. You need
Hmm.
more to be a little bit more conditioned. So that
Yeah.
was my feedback. And then 2 weeks later, we went to New York Pro and placed fourth.
That's great. I mean,
So
you
yeah,
jumped up in the placings for sure.
so got 6 points towards the Olympia.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks, well, is it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, 2 weeks ago was Miami, which I placed second there.
So you're progressively getting, better
Hmm.
and better placings. That's
Yeah,
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 that's amazing. Even though like wellness has been here for, a little bit, it's still fairly new. There's still a lot that they're like trying to, figure out. I mean, I guess what Franchella is the first Olympian, right? Like
yeah, she
champion.
is.
There's
Yeah,
so you only had, there's only one right now.
yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see where, how they develop it further. I will say that I think she is a good representation of what wellness should be.
Oh,
I'm,
100% agree.
I worry that that they're going to get trapped into what some of these divisions are trapped in, which is like the size game. Hopefully that won't happen. But
Yeah, yeah, that's a concern of mine.
mhm.
Definitely, and other girls that I am like close to, like I do have, some really good friends in the sport, and we do. That's definitely a concern that it's gonna be a size
Right.
game. It's not, but it's new. They're still trying to figure it out. I guess we'll just give it the benefit of the doubt, see what they really want, what they're looking for, and what they're rewarding. I
Yeah.
mean, where it matters really, I mean, everything matters, but I would say, where we really should focus on who's being rewarded at the Olympia and the Arnolds. I
Right.
think Francielle set the standard, which is I wouldn't want it any other way. Issa looked flawless at the Arnolds,
Mhm.
so those two right there, I think was setting the standard. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where it matters.
Yeah, those are the biggest shows. Those are the
Yeah.
ones that those are the trendsetters. So it's, and I mean, on every division, not just wellness. Anytime someone wins the Arnold, immediately they start, talking about the Olympia, because it's well known that if you're winning the Arnold, then you have momentum going into, the Olympia. So those are the two biggest shows. That I definitely agree. How much, how can I put this? How close to your heart do you take the judges' feedback like every show? Because I'm assuming that these are different judges in each show. So if one judge, tells you need to be more conditioned, another show they tell you something else. Like, do you try to do you take that like kind of close and you really work on what they say, or are you one of those competitors that are like, look, this is the look that I'm going for, this, and go ahead.
I respect the judges. I do take their feedback. And me and my coach and my trainers, we look at it and say, hey, what makes sense? But my feedback's been all over the place, to be
Mhm.
honest. It depends on what panel of judges you go in front of. Some
Right.
judges like a more softer look. Some judges like a more harder, more shredded look.
Mhm.
More, some judges like more size, and that's okay. you know but we know what we need to work on to bring the best me on the stage. So
Mhm.
that's what we do. We just work on what's gonna bring the best version of me on the stage. And
Yeah.
that's just to answer your question. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the best way, probably
Yeah.
to handle it. You said you're in prep right now.
Yeah, so I am in 3 weeks away, actually. Well, starting Monday, I'll be 3 weeks out from the Texas Pro.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Texas is a huge
Yeah.
place for wellness and for,
Yeah.
well, really for bodybuilding in general, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of wellness competitors coming out of Texas too.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
It's supposed to be a stack show based on the conversations on social media.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to see a lot of girls there. It's going to be
Yeah.
a big show. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting.
It's
Have you
exciting.
thought about getting into coaching yourself, or you think that's a little too early for you?
I think it's a little bit too early for me. I
Mhm.
mean, it's definitely something that maybe I want to pursue, later, down the line. But
Mhm.
for now, I'll just focus on bodybuilding being a hobby. Even with bodybuilding, I don't know, my tenureship in the sport.
Right.
So I have a very busy life. I have a full-time career. Full like I mean, I have two small children. I'm
Right.
married. I
Right.
just, that comes
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, I mean,
What else do we-
bodybuilding is a financially draining sport.
Oh
It's
yeah,
very rarely a financially like giving sport. Only in like very small handful of people, make a good living from bodybuilding. The rest,
yeah,
it's pretty draining. So
yeah, yeah. I
so
agree.
if you have a good job and you're making money other ways, that's probably the best way to go and keep
Yeah.
bodybuilding as a hobby. Yeah.
The thing is, now that we're on the topic,
Mhm.
I fell so far back on work, and I wanted to, after placing second at Miami, I
Mhm.
wanted to jump back into the very next show, which was the Atlanta Pro that happened last weekend.
Yeah.
But I feel like it would have been irresponsible of me because I fell so far back on work, you know,
Sure.
and my husband picks up the slack with the children, and it's not fair to him.
Uh,
So, there's a lot of factors that play into that. I feel like at the point where I feel it's going beyond what it's originally intended to be, which is a hobby, it's like I just
mhm.
don't want to do it anymore. And just
Right.
I feel I'm not like my heart is just bodybuilding. It's just like I'll die for this sport. I'll do
Right.
whatever. It's like, no.
There are people like that, but I think that's a very immature way of looking at it if you look at it that way, because it's you're not people like that generally are not they're not really taking a good look at like at the lay of the land, so to speak. Like, it's bodybuilding is temporary at best.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that, if you make it a hobby and you enjoy it and you do it and it brings some rewards down the line,
Yeah.
great. But it shouldn't cause you to sacrifice, the more important things, in your life. So
Yeah,
which,
no, most definitely. And I have a, a hard stop. Maybe it's gonna, I said, this is when I'm gonna stop. It could be sooner, because it's a lot. It's almost like three other jobs,
mhm,
that the reward is just intangible,
right,
for me at least, because it is definitely something that I do enjoy. I met a lot of people,
mhm,
great people. I mean,
right,
some of the best friendships that I have came from, this wellness division.
mhm,
And I'm very, very grateful for that. Those are the tangibles that I'm referring to. I've placed top 3 in 2 shows where I got a check. I
mhm,
mean, compared to what I actually paid for to enter the
right,
competition expenses, it's nothing close to it. So that's something
right,
you have to look at the intangibles first before you actually look at the monetary value, because it's not financially rewarding. You can't, it's very, very, rare you earn like a substantial living off of
right.
bodybuilding. You just have to really enjoy this to continue to go and spend your
Sure.
money.
Sure. No, no, absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Well, Judy, I think we've been on almost an hour. I really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. Like you said, you have 2 kids, a husband, a full-time job. So I appreciate, your time. I'm wishing you well on your, next show and the rest of the season.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Of
for having
course.
me.
Of course. You take care. Have a great rest of the evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye.